Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of video games. We cover all kinds from the mainstream to the indie, so I hope you enjoy your stay, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. When the Warrior of Light goes back to Razad-Han to check in with Varshan, the dragon actually wants to talk to her about Zero. The Voidsent had made a deal to trade Ether for her help in rescuing Varshan's sister, and as part of that deal, he's been paying her in food which she seems to like, and she's eaten enough to have fully recovered from her injuries, which means Varshan is ready to head back into the Void, if you and the others are. Since there's no point in waiting around, Varshan heads off to get Estinian and Y'shtola, as well as switching into his more fight-worthy vessel, while the Warrior of Light goes to find Zero. She wasn't in her room, but she started to like the view from high up in the city, so finding her won't be all that rough. The Voidsent woman is staring out at the city in amazement over the fact that the people don't seem to have a care in the world. Even the tiny weak ones aren't afraid of being murdered or eaten. If she were in Ul'dah, she'd probably see an entirely different side of humanity. But Razad-Han is a pretty chill city, mainly because they know they're ruled over by a dragon, and if they act up, he could just burn them all alive. Zero's people from the 13th don't have that luxury, as she's pointed out to you on multiple occasions. They make pacts with mortals so they can come to the source and feed, otherwise they'll die. And that's what Zero had expected when Xenos had summoned her, since he pretty much acted like a Voidsent anyway. At least he did in all cases except when it came to the Warrior of Light. Zero still can't understand why he was so obsessed with you, but since he's dead, it doesn't really matter all that much. She's more interested in why you came to bother her. Once you tell her that you're all getting ready to head back into the Void, she's willing to come along with you since that's what she agreed to. So you both head off to meet up with Estinian, Varshan, and Y'shtola. Varshan is eager to head off, but when you all get ready to set out, something surprises him so much that he switches to his dragon form and uses his ether to call out. For a split second, he had felt Ashdaya on the source, which is not normal since she's definitely trapped in the Void. But Varshan knows his sister, and he definitely sensed her, but she vanished. She may have found her way back home, but got snatched back before she could do anything. Y'shtola thinks there could be some clues about what happened in the spot where he sensed her, which was somewhere far to the north, which means he felt her somewhere out in Garlemald, so that's where you're all headed. Zero doesn't particularly care where you all go. Since you kept her fed like you said you would, she doesn't mind helping you search in Garlemald or the Void. Since it's possible that other Voidsent could have come through in the same spot where Varshan sensed his sister, Zero's help would be useful, so no one would think of turning it down. Since you're headed to Garlemald, Estinian calls some of your friends who are there, and you'll all teleport over to meet them. When you arrive in Tertium, you're greeted by the twins, who are obviously Estinian's contacts. They've been in Garlemald since the Scions disbanded, trying to help the people get back on their feet. It's all been total chaos in the nation since it got destroyed, and the people don't really have any leadership, but that gives them the opportunity to build up a new way of life. The people didn't really want anything to do with the twins at first, but we all know that they tend to grow on you after a while, and the people are starting to like them. It doesn't hurt that the allied nations have been sending in supplies that the Garleans really need, so that makes taking foreign aid a lot easier to deal with. Julius and his soldiers have been recruiting people to help restore order, and that's been going well, so all in all, the twins have been making progress. But what they want to know is what made you come there. Once Alice finds out all of the things you've been up to, she's obviously upset that you didn't invite her to that undersea vault you explored, especially since you did bring Grahatia with you. She was busy, but she still wouldn't have minded getting an invite. Regardless, she does question why you think it's a good idea to keep Zero around since she was bonded to Xenos. Zero tells her that she's right to be cautious around her since she is a Voidsent, and she might eat her if it turns out to be worth it. But she's not Xenos. When she thinks back on her time serving the man, it actually makes her mad, which goes against her claims of Voidsent not really caring about stuff. And that one little interaction is enough for Alice to say that she thinks her and Zero will get along fine. They probably will, but I think Alice needs to work on her process of vetting potential allies. Varshan's not worried about Alice's poor choice in friends. He wants to know if the twins have seen anything weird that could be connected to him sensing his sister in the area. It turns out they have. Over the past few days, they have been having to fight a lot of Voidsent that haven't been the weak lower rank kind. They're the ones that need to be summoned. There are people who used an ancient Garlean fighting style that relied on void scent servants, them being the Reapers, but there are no known Reapers in the area. But just like the one who trained the Warrior of Light, it's not at all impossible for some Reapers to still be working in secret, and it would take a lot of skill and power to open a gate large enough for something of Ashdaya's power to come through for even a second, so it very likely could be Reapers. The twins have already been working on tracking the void scent to their place of origin, and they found it somewhere in the mountains to the east, but you can't get there on foot, and the weather's too bad to fly. Plus the area is entirely too big, but the twins had planned on checking out an old self-contained village that was supposed to be the home to a Reaper group. But getting there might be difficult since none of you know the area, so you all head off to see if Julius knows how. Julius is happy to see you after so long, but seeing you with so big of a crew makes him figure out that you're working on something. But since his people aren't hurting for supplies, they won't have a problem helping you all out. It doesn't take much for him to guess that you're all there because of the void scent. He confirms that the Reapers did have a village in the mountains in a place called the Lapis manalis caverns. For a while in the past, the Reapers had been a valuable part of the Garlean military, but once Magitech was made, they became less and less respected. When some of them got caught in some anti-government acts, the entire group was outlawed, and from what Julius knows, the village has been abandoned ever since. He can see that the Warrior of Light learned the Reaper techniques from somewhere, and he is curious to find out who taught you. But since he just spent a few minutes telling you how Reapers are outlawed in Garlemald, he should have known that you wouldn't snitch on your friend. He can't exactly force you to talk about it, so he just lets the matter drop. The caverns of Lapis manalis are just as hard to reach as Alphino said, but the Garleans do have a specific Magitech vehicle that's made to make the trip. Unfortunately, they only had one left after all of the chaos that happened in Garlemald, and that one broke down in the area called Cerulean Engines. The things are way too big to push, so the Garleans just left it there. The engineers at Trapper's Den might be able to fix it since they did use the machines to transport stuff. Alisaie's dealt with them a lot in her time in the area, and they like her because everyone likes Alisaie, so if they can help her out they will if she asks. Since there are void scent popping up all over the place, Alphino wants the Warrior of Light to go with Alisaie to watch her back, which the Warrior of Light is more than open to do. Varshawn plans on using the time to learn everything Julius knows about the area the Reapers used to live in. Since the man spent more of his time learning how to stab people than learning about different locations in history, he takes him to someone who can tell him all that he wants to know, while you head off to find the engineers. Zero wants to talk to Alisaie, so she joins the two of you on your little trip. The void scent didn't have anything overly important to ask, she just wanted to know why the girl was going out of her way to help the Garleans. She can't possibly be doing it without some type of ulterior motive, but Alisaie's just doing it because she feels like it's the right thing to do. Anything she gets in return is strictly optional. Zero is still struggling with the fact that some people simply act without looking to gain anything. It's a strange way to live, but she actually seems interested in trying to understand it. But for now you have another mission. The engineers Alisaie mentioned are more than willing to stop what they're doing to work on the machine that they call the mammoth for her. The thing is apparently humongous, but he can fix it, so he follows you all back to the camp so you can show him where the mammoth is. The thing is, he'll need a bit of help getting his supplies and stuff straight since it's a big job. That means he'll need some people to carry stuff. Estinian and Varshawn are perfectly fine with doing a bit of heavy lifting, and because it's very likely that the void scent will attack them while they work, Ishtola is gonna go and do her whole blow things up thing. They head off to deal with the mammoth, and since you don't have anything else to do, you go to help the twins with all of their little side tasks. And since Alisaie answered her questions, Zero will tag along as a way of paying her back. That's not exactly why Alisaie did it, but she's not going to complain about the help. Most of the supplies sent to Garlemald come to the camp by airship. After that, they're divided up and brought to the other settlements. And there are still a few supplies that need to be delivered to Tertium. Zero goes with Alphino to do that, while the Warrior of Light goes with Alisaie to deal with any void scent that have popped up in the area. They have a habit of attacking people that move down the roads, so the two of you split up and deal with the ones that you find. There are a few not so small ones around that would have given the average traveler a quick trip to the live stream, but the two of you deal with them in the usual fashion. Garlemald isn't exactly safe, and between the constant dangers from the weather, the wildlife, and not to mention the void scent, it won't be easy to build a safe, self-sustaining society for a while. They likely won't ever become the powerhouse of a nation that they once were, but if the people can get some form of a peaceful life, Alisaie will be happy with that. Knowing her, she'll probably work herself to death trying to make it come true. She probably would have stayed out hunting void scent for even longer, but she's curious to see how things are going with Zero and Alphino, so the two of you make your way to Tertium. Zero and Alphino are handing out food, and the whole thing feels oddly familiar to Zero, but she doesn't know why. Alphino gets called away to do a bit of healing for a man whose wife is sick, so Zero is left to do the job by herself, but Julius shows up to keep her company. Since this is the first time he's ever talked to her, he's curious about who she is. He asks if she's one of Alphino's friends, but when he explains that a friend is someone who you hang around just because you enjoy their company and not because you really need something from them, Zero is quick to say that not only does she not have any friends, she probably never will. It's actually a way of thinking that Julius can understand. When the twins had first showed up, he and all of his people saw them and the rest of the Eorzeans as enemies, and they treated them like it, but the twins never did anything but help. Eventually, the people realized that they really were just good people and accepted them as who they were, so he can understand why they would hang out with someone like Zero who tries not to get close to people. They usually end up converting those types of people over to their way of thinking. Zero doubts they'll do it to her, but Julius clearly doesn't believe her. He does do the one thing that always seems to get people on Zero's good side, and that's give her a very delicious looking dumpling. When he cracked it open, I immediately thought of a sloppy Joe and got kinda hungry. They even took the time to animate the steam coming off of it, and even though Zero hasn't really gotten used to the whole tasting things thing, she seemed to really like the giant dumpling. Alice and the Warrior of Light make it there while the pair are still eating, but they don't get a chance to join in because a man who was assigned to guard a transport comes running in screaming about a massive horde of void scent coming in from the mountains to the east. It's a group bigger than they've ever seen, which means anyone outside of Tertium will be in serious trouble if they don't get to shelter. The twins and the Warrior of Light are already ready to head out and save as many people as they can, but Zero not so much. See, on the 13th, death isn't permanent, and when a void scent is summoned partially to the source, death isn't permanent. But she's there fully. If she dies, there's no coming back, and she has no reason to risk her life like that for free. Alice understands and she knows that they don't have anything to offer that would be worth the risk, but since he did give her food, Julius asks if she'll at least stand guard at the Tertium. That way more of the people can join the rescue party without worrying about the people they're leaving behind. Zero can live with that, but if no attacks happen at the camp itself, she will stand there and watch everyone who leaves die. That's more than they expected her to do, so the Warrior of Light, Alphino, and Alice head off to go and help Y'shtola and the others first, because that Void Scent army will get to them before it gets to anyone else. While the three of you are out, Julius gets a call saying that one of his units that was transporting supplies to Camp Broken Glass hasn't made contact. Julius is pretty sure that they've come in contact with Void Scent, so he decides to head out to check on his men. Zero is pretty sure that if they have been attacked, Julius will die if he goes alone. He knows that, but he can't abandon them, so if he dies trying to help them, he's fine with it. Seeing that the man has no problem throwing his life away to attempt to help his people, Zero decides to go out there and check on the unit in his place, mainly because she won't be able to pay him back for the dumpling if he dies. He doesn't want to let her do it, but she's the best chance his people have, so he agrees, and Zero heads off. She finds them right when they're about to get eaten, and she steps in to save them. The Void Scent are confused about why one of their own would get in the way, but they only care a little bit because they have no problem killing a Void Scent if it gets in the way of their meal, and there are a lot of them. Zero, being almost as cool as Estinian and probably as strong, is able to bring a lot of them down, but one shows up that's on a whole different level from the others, and Zero's overpowered. To make it worse, even more stronger creatures are closing in on her, which makes her wonder just how big of a void gate got opened. But that doesn't matter to her because she passes out, and she's pretty sure she'll never wake up again. That moment, being completely helpless and alone facing enemies, reminds Zero of a time during the Contra Memoria, where she faced 3 Memoriads who were coming to her village to take it over. She held her own for a while, but fighting alone, she wasn't strong enough to keep them out. She needed help, but when she called out for it, no one came to her aid, and the situation was playing out the same way again. But that final blow never came, and when she opens her eyes, she sees that this time help did come in the form of Alice, Alphino, and the Warrior of Light. To nobody's surprise, Y'shtola, Estinian, and Varshan were more than enough to deal with the creatures that attacked them, so the twins, with the Warrior of Light tagging along, were able to go help Zero. A little bit of healing from Alphino gets her back on her feet, and the 4 of you get to work on the Void Scent. The creature Andromelos is nearly on par with an Archfiend, but with the 4 of you fighting together, you all bring him and the seemingly endless number of creatures he brought with him down. Zero can't believe you all found her out in the middle of nowhere like that, but Julius had been so worried about it that he had called the twins to let them know where she'd went. She's having a hard time getting used to people actually caring about her, but she's happy that they did. Alphino's healing keeps her on her feet for long enough for her to make it back to Tertium, where she would have fallen on her face if Julius hadn't caught her, something he promises that she doesn't have to pay him for. since he's pretty sure he owes her for his own life and that of his men. So he takes her in the train so she can rest while you all wait for the others to get back. That gives Alice some time to figure out why Zero risked her life for Julius like that, because there was no way that one dumpling, no matter how delicious it was worth that risk. All it really took for Zero to get back on her feet was a bit of food, and she's already recovered by the time Estinian and Y'shtola show up. The Void Scent that attacked have all been dealt with, and since they don't regenerate on the source like they do on the 13th, there's little chance of another swarm appearing anytime soon. But Y'shtola's pretty sure that there's a Void Gate somewhere nearby, which would explain how so many Void Scent appeared at the same time. That means you need to deal with it. Fortunately, the mammoth craft is nearly fixed, and Varshan is with the engineer helping to put the finishing touches on the thing, so you all get ready to go and meet with him. Zero wants to come with you, and she isn't doing it for any type of payment. She's coming solely because she wants to. Just like Julius said it would, hanging around the Scions has made her feel strange, and it got worse when you all saved her life. She's curious to see what comes of it. The twins are going to tag along too, even though that means they'll have to put their other duties on hold for a bit. As long as they stop the Void Scent for good, Julius doesn't care, so you all head off to meet up with Varshan. When you all get there, the engineer's already put the finishing touches on the mammoth and is ready to go. He's going to pilot the thing for you because he's pretty sure none of you know how to drive it. As soon as you all start heading up the mountain path, large animals start attacking the vehicle. The Scions deal with the not so tiny beasts, and they make it to a mountain path that you all have to take on foot. More animals from griffins to yeti try to block your path, but once you deal with them and get on the path to the Reaper settlement, you find out really fast that the Void Scent are definitely coming from there. But that's not all. The Reapers had their own training system in the form of a scantily clad Reaper android that makes for a pretty nice sparring partner. And it also explains why the Reapers were so strong, especially since when you win the fight, the droid gives you a rank of 12, meaning you were about as impressive as a floating eyeball. When you reach the deepest part of the place, you do find a Void Gate, and it was opened by none other than the Archfiend Cagnazzo. He was waiting for you all because he wanted a good fight. He gives everything he has to bring your group down, and since he's fully stepped onto the source, he is definitely not a pushover, but the Scions defeat the Archfiend. Before he dies, Varshan wants the Void Scent to tell him about his sister and why he felt their presence on the source. The reason was simple. Cagnazzo had used one of Ashdai's eyes to open the portal. The fact that a single eye from a member of the First Brood who had been fighting off the corruption of the Void for thousands of years still had enough ether to open a Void Gate that could let an Archfiend through is a sign of just how powerful those dragons really are. It also means that Golbez is way stronger. Golbez has the answers that you want, but Cagnazzo doesn't think you're strong enough to get him to talk. He wishes he had the chance to see you try, but he played his part and is perfectly fine with finally getting to die for good. He fades away, and with his death, the Void Gate closes. Varshan gets his sister's eye, but seeing just how much damage had been done to her is not something that he takes well. While he starts trying to figure out what he's going to do next, Alphino thinks it may be a good idea to check the area to see if there's anything there that can be used back at the camp. Alice goes with him while the rest of you try to figure out why the Reapers decided to live in that very unsafe place. The location should have some significance, and whatever it is could have been the reason why Cagnazzo decided to open his Void Gate there. Way back during the time of the Allegan Empire, Zan had opened a massive Void Gate with the power of the Crystal Tower. So with the right amount of ether, a Void Gate could be opened from the 13th side, which explains why the Dragon Eye is nearly completely out of ether. When you think about the fact that the Archfiends had drained some of the dragon's ether to power themselves up, Ashdai may not have much longer to live. But what Y'shtola can't really understand is why did Golbez decide to attack now instead of 5,000 years ago when Ashdai first got there? And there's still no clue about why the Archfiend had popped up in so odd of a spot. Varshan's panicking a little bit, which Estinian understands, but if the dragon doesn't calm down, they won't have a chance of saving his sister. Estinian is okay with giving him a minute or two to get his mind right, but after that it'll be time to get back to business. You all give him a bit of alone time, and you use it to help the twins look for anything useful in the area. Alice has already made sure that there were no Void Scent left, so you all can gather materials in peace. The main thing that the Garleans need is fuel, and it turns out that the Reaper City was built on top of a whole gold mine of ceruleum, which kind of makes sense. The stuff is the main source of fuel for all things Garlean, and with the Reapers living and training away from the main city, they would have needed that fuel to be self-sufficient. Once you've all loaded up the mammoth with as much ceruleum as you can carry, Varshan finally finishes moping, and he's ready to get back to the search. One good thing that Y'shtola notices about Ajdaya's eye is the fact that it still hadn't been corrupted by the darkness of the 13th, so it's likely that the dragon is still herself, which does make Varshan happy. While the twins would love to keep working with you on your quest, they have their own duties to take care of in Garlemald, but they will keep a lookout just in case another void gate opens. With that said, the twins head off, and the Warrior of Light and her team head back to Razad-Han to get ready for their trip into the void. They all get ready to head out, but a massive explosion of flame ether erupts in the sky not far from the city, and the group races off to Thavnir to see what happened. They run into a fisherman who lets them know that a giant monster appeared out over the sea in an explosion of ether. Then he headed off to the north. It looked like a blasphemy, but he's not sure. He just knows that it wasn't something he'd want to see up close. The island where the thing appeared is not far from Azadal's legacy, which makes Y'shtola think that the Void Sin have come after their Void Gate. Varshan gets the bright idea to go dragon form and track this new monster down, but Estinian stops him. The people are already going to start rumors about another blasphemy, and if they see their leader take off in his dragon form, he would pretty much confirm the rumors and cause the people to panic. He keeps forgetting that he doesn't have to do everything himself, so he lets the Warrior of Light and Zero go hunt for the monster, while he gets his soldiers together to make sure his people are okay. Y'shtola and Estinian will go and make sure that the Void Gate hasn't been damaged. You all have your missions, so you split up to take care of them. The Warrior of Light and Zero split up to go talk to the people around the area so they can hopefully find some information about where the monster went. After asking around, the Warrior of Light finds out that the monster had headed toward a nearby mountain, so of course she follows it. While she's on the trail, she gets a call from Y'shtola with some bad news. Your Void Gate has been destroyed. That was why Cognazzo had led you all to Garlemald. It was so the other Archfiend Rubicante would have time to destroy your path back into the Void. You find him floating and admiring the beauty of the source. He fully remembers the time when his world looked like yours, but he had given up on seeing it again until he met Golbez. That's why he joined him. He respects the fact that you're trying to save the dragon, but since freeing her would interfere with Golbez's plan, he can't let you do it. That was the other reason he came. The first was to destroy the Void Gate. The second was to finish you off. While Rubicante is the strongest of the Archfiends, he's still not strong enough to bring down the Warrior of Light. Zero shows up after the battle because of course they couldn't have her help you with the fight. But since you beat him, Rubicante has no problem telling you what Golbez is planning, since he doesn't think there's anything you can do to stop him anyway. When he starts the story, the Echo shows the Warrior of Light a scene of Golbez talking to all 4 Archfiends. Since they were Void Sin who were strong enough to remember who they had been before the world was destroyed, they still want to bring it back. Unfortunately, that's all but impossible, but it doesn't mean that they have to stay trapped on that destroyed world. Golbez wants them to join him on his mission because the Ascians had revealed to him that there were other worlds out there, and if they could break the barrier between their realm and the source, they could escape their never-ending cycle of resurrection. All of the Archfiends were down for invading another world, and since they were willing to work with him, Golbez gave them power and the freedom to carry out their own personal goals to help prepare for the invasion of the source. Zero had no idea that Golbez had planned on taking the source, but she's more surprised to hear that the fiends hadn't served Golbez for any reason other than they wanted to. Rubicante had joined the man to atone for failing to protect his world, and even though it'll mean destroying another world, he's willing to do that to save his people. It's more than worth the price to put an end to their never-ending hunger for ether. Zero doesn't agree. Killing someone else just to save yourself seems wrong to her. She's finally learned that not everything has to be traded for, and she'll try to live the way the mortals do, because even if she's trading ether for everything on purpose, she's still just as much an ether-crazed monster as the rest of the feral Void Sin. Rubicante doesn't think she's all that wrong about Golbez's crew having succumbed to the hunger in a different way, but that doesn't change his mission. Regardless, the Archfiend does tell you that Golbez is on the 13th moon, and that's where he has Ajdaya. He doesn't consider telling you a betrayal since there's nothing you can do to stop Golbez, but he did take Zero's words to heart, and if you can reach Golbez, you might be able to convince him to find another way to save the Void Sin, if that's even the man's true goal. And with that, the last Archfiend dies. Zero's upset that she missed the fight, but she is glad that she got to talk to Rubicante. It put her one step closer to figuring out why she feels so strange. Even though your way back into the Void has been destroyed, she does see a bright side. They could have used the gate to bring more Void Sin to the source, and having them show up so close to Razad-Han would not have been a good thing. But you all need to figure out how you'll get back to the Void, so the Warrior of Light and Zero head back to the city to check in with the others. Y'shtola pretty much told you everything you needed to know about the broken Void Gate, so she wants to know what happened to you. She's not surprised about your fight with the Archfiend. But she wasn't expecting to hear that Golbez was planning on invading the source so the Void Scent would be able to die. If they were just coming over to take themselves out, Estinian wouldn't have had a problem with that. But an entire world full of Void Scent coming over would be kind of bad for the people, and that says nothing about the damage that would be done to the source if the barrier between it and the Void broke. It would be almost as bad as a calamity. The only problem is you can't get to Golbez now that your gate is destroyed. He did sacrifice both of his last Archfiends to block you all from the Void, so he must not need them anymore to finish his mission. That means you need to find a way back to the 13th as fast as possible. I have a theory about what's going to happen, but we'll discuss that at a later date. Y'shtola heads off to Sharlayan to see what she can find out about getting back to the Void, while Estinian goes off to do what he does best, and that's train legs. And Vritra wants to know if Zero will help you all when you find a way back to the Void. She will, and she won't charge you a thing. She'll do it just because she wants to. It'll help her figure out her own feelings, but what really matters is you'll have her help, and you'll need it, because Golbez not only has Ashdaya imprisoned on the moon, his base is sitting in the crater that had held Zodiark, which makes me wonder if that is the reason why he's so powerful. Did he consume the piece of Zodiark that was on the 13th? And if he did, what happened to the Watcher? Those are questions for another day, because for now the story's over. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, donate if you can, and I'll see you all next time.